Greetings, kindred spirits. I hope you're all doing well. And we're going to start with the new moon. So we've got the new moon, we've got the September equinox, which is the autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere, and the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere. And Saturn retro ends. So these will be spread out through the rest of the month basically, so this energy update is for the rest of the month. So we'll start with the new moon, and the new moon begins in Virgo, in the true lifetime sky, on the 17th of September at 12 p.m. in the GMT time zone, at 7 a.m. in the EDT time zone, and at 9 p.m. in the AEDT time zone. So as the new moon begins, she will be in trine to Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto, and trines are aspects that flow with ease, but sometimes they can be a little bit too easy and we can tend to take things for granted. And in this instance, I feel there can be a very strong manipulative agenda behind motivational projects that is really at play here, and I say that because of all the other aspects taking place. Also, we need to bear in mind that Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto are power planets. You know, they are the governing planets of the zodiac. The moon in Virgo emits an energy that is in need of perfection and much detail, but this moon can get too caught up in the trivialities of the details and miss out on the bigger picture. Although used positively, it can inspire us to be more grounded and focused, especially for those of us who have been feeling, a little bit scattered energetically or even mentally. But with Venus in quincunx to Jupiter this new moon, it does suggest that we may be too reliant on other people's approval, and lacking in that ability to draw on our own conclusions. So I guess it's who we're looking to, for answers that really counts in the long run. But I would recommend that we all just take the time needed, meditate. I've posted some really good videos below and by Steve Noble, and one of them is about mind defragmentation, which I think will be perfect if you're in that space of not being able to get your head straight. So to add to this, there is also a grand cross and Anati square this new moon. So the grand cross is with our Sun, Moon, Neptune and the North Node, well actually the South and the North Node. And they are all in square, and Neptune will also be in opposition to both our Sun and Moon. So in all, it shows that emotional public opinions will be the theme, affecting all social and intimate settings, which has really been ongoing, but obviously they're being hyped up at the moment. And, those settings could be way out of alignment. So this will cause more of a divide between the alternative way of life and the traditional. So this is the spiritual versus the material, the, alternative versus the traditional. And it's going to be in such a way that it's a little bit shocking. It's like something we would never have thought to have seen in our lifetime. And I really can't even get my head around what that could be, but that's what I'm seeing here. But I do see also that spiritual values are likely to win the day if we can stand strong in our own self-awareness and sovereignty. And that is really important. So Neptune is at 21 degrees and our Sun and Moon are at 1 degree. And in numerology, 1 and 21 are both connected to our sun in a positive sense. The sun is our creative force and represents all that is individualistic, bold and positive. 1 is the number of organisation and executive abilities. 21 is the number of advancement and elevation. So in this instance, with the sun in opposition to Neptune, it does show that our psychic creative vision will be very powerful this time. But at the same time, alternative spiritual people will need to watch out for the naysayers, as this energy being emitted does create opposition and pressure. So the Grand Cross itself represents repetitive cycles. And the cycle here that needs to be broken is all about dictatorship and unrealistic ideals. Since the South Node entered Ophiuchus on the 2nd of September, a deep karma has been erupting globally, bringing to light the injustices of our traditional systems. And the serpent energy of Ophiuchus will be very strong throughout the rest of this year, especially since the last lunar eclipse back in July hasn't yet been completed and won't be completed until the 14th of December, when the solar eclipse, which always follows a lunar eclipse, will take place in the sign of Ophiuchus. So just like the first lunar eclipse of this eclipse season took place in Ophiuchus, it will also end in the sign of Ophiuchus with the solar eclipse. So, to me, it's almost like we're being launched into another dimension, a timeline that does not fit in with how we've always known it to be here through our lifetime. And the element of ether is very strong now, the strongest it's been for a very long time. And like I said in my previous podcast, well, it's either the last one or the one before, the last time the South Node entered into Ophiuchus was in February 2002, 5 months after the 9/11 occurred. So we can see from that event alone just how surreal the Ophiuchus energy can be. Ether is the element of spirit, but it's also a gaseous substance. It's alchemical in nature, and in its organic form, it is actually very healing, but in its negative, it can be very toxic. And because the nodes of our moon represent societal trends, this is relevant on a collective level as well as a global one. So it's important that we stay open-minded when it comes to certain issues going on in our world today. Not that we shouldn't have an opinion, but to be aware that things can change. When Ophiuchus is strongly in the picture, it does suggest that certain ideologists will go out of their way to prove a point and push the boundaries beyond the limit of comprehension. So, we must use our inner wisdom as our compass to direct us through the hazy atmospheric conditions. Spiritual and material values are definitely at loggerheads this new moon. The T-square formation is with Mercury and Chiron both in opposition, and they are both in square to Saturn and Pluto, who are still retrograding through the sign of Sagittarius. So something will definitely be coming to a close energetically. It could be a breaking down of previously held beliefs. And if that's the case, then this can be very sudden and overwhelming for many. Sagittarius is the sign of the truth seeker, but can also be very narrow-minded. And Mercury and Chiron are both members of the medical industry, either alternative or traditional. So we must not allow ourselves to become fixated or obsessed with either one. We must continue to move forward openly, honestly, and calmly. Lashing out will not win anyone any favours. And for some, it could be that ghosts of the past resurface so that they can be healed and put into a proper perspective. But in all, we need to find this balance between the alternative and the traditional when it comes to healing and medicine. So my advice would be, we must keep our spirits high and our baggage light. So the autumn equinox is on the 22nd of September and will reach its peak at 14:31 in the GMT time zone. The grand cross from the new moon will still be ongoing, and the T-square will develop from a single T-square to a double T-square. And on top of that, Uranus, who is retrograding through Aries, will be in quincunx to our moon, who will be at 3 degrees in Ophiuchus. So again, mood swings will be likely. These energies are very triggering and can cause a lot of unnecessary misunderstandings. The good thing is that Venus and Vesta will come into a 0-degree conjunction in the sign of Leo. Vesta is the goddess of the sacred fire, and Venus is the goddess of love. And Leo actually represents the heart chakra. So our desire for soul union will be strong, and it's possible that many could come into union at this time. But because Leo can tend to wear his heart on his sleeve, it can be all about appearance rather than authenticity. So we must beware of jumping into situations or hanging on to relationships that are not aligned with our true calling. This can also represent the initial stages of a Kundalini awakening, where the soul comes into a union with the higher self. So lots of spiritual awakenings could happen at this time too. The thing to be aware of is that the Black Moon Lilith will be in conjunction to Chiron and in opposition to our Sun. This is quite a heavy aspect. And, just this aspect alone shows a great deal of depression will be felt by many. And as they are all creating a T-square towards the South Node in Ophiuchus, shows that there can be no more hiding, that we must face up to adverse situations and basically deal with them in a manner that brings a resolution. So excuse all the door closing and that, I think that's my daughter in and out. So Saturn will turn direct on the 29th of September at 5:45 in the GMT time zone. Saturn started his retrograde in his own sign of Capricorn on the 11th of May and eventually retrograded back to Sagittarius. Initially, his energy will be very rigid and authoritative. His aspects towards the other planets as his retrograde ends does suggest a lack of joy or a fear of commitment, so there will be a need for some to break out of their shell and take a risk to find out what really lights up their fire. What fires up your passion. But on the whole, these aspects can stimulate creative energy, especially in spiritual groups or in spiritual unions. The Black Moon Lilith will still be in opposition to our Sun, but fortunately she would have moved away from Chiron So although her shadow of depression will be felt, the load will be slightly lighter. It will just be the residue of any trauma or, depression that has emerged and, that needs some time to process and heal from. We must keep on top of our health, physically, mentally and spiritually. And I've linked 3 of Steve Noble's meditations below, and all of them will be beneficial at different times. So please just do what resonates with you. But, I would suggest doing them in the order that I've set them in. I would definitely recommend the Defrag Your Mind one for those who are just overloaded mentally. But yeah, I think he's just done these videos so perfectly as well. I'm not sure if I put them in the same order as him. But if I have, I do feel this is the correct order. And I would say for the rest of the month, you don't have to do them all at once. Just do it, and whatever you resonate with and feel you need to do more of. But I definitely feel meditation will be needed. And definitely diet, vitamins, minerals. Get on top of your diet mentally. If you need to talk or release, chant, sing, pray, whatever it is that's your thing, do it. So stay in peace, kindred. Much love.